Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to episode 9 of Chess Mistakes of an A-Player. With this video we're getting into that period of time where, if you remember my chart from the beginning of this series, episode 1, I showed a rating chart. And with this video we're getting into the games from the end of that rating chart where my rating started to go down. So I was kind of on the alert for if anything had changed in my play to make it worse. I mean, up to this point, I've been playing pretty steadily, maintaining my rating in that band of around 1820 to 1920. And you saw, obviously, I still had some mistakes. Those are the things that kept me from improving further. But in this at this point in time with these games, I started going downhill, and my rating declined about 100 points or more. So I was looking for changes, and a couple things that I noticed in this series of games. One was that I seem to be making more simple blunders than I did in the previous groups of games. In this period, I looked at 11 games. I've been looking at about 10, somewhere between 10 and 12 games in each group to get a consistent sample. And the other thing I noticed was there were a couple of strategic mistakes that I played against lower-rated players, and cost me the game. So those were very costly mistakes as well. So I wanted to start by taking a look at those strategic errors, and this is the first one. So I was playing a young player who's rated about 200 points less than me at this point, and I have the white pieces. This came out of a Sicilian dragon, and I played this very typical tactic, knight d5, exposing an attack on his queen, which is unprotected, and at the same time attacking the pawn on e7. And while this tactic doesn't win any material, it forces a retreat. He can't trade queens because I can throw in knight takes e7 check, and then after the king moves, then I can take back the queen. So typical kind of tactic. So the queen has to retreat. And right here, this next move is my mistake. So I was feeling, I guess, I was playing a lower-rated player. I had just played this typical kind of tactic and maybe caught him out and got a slight edge. But my edge basically consists of a slight advantage in development, and I should just continue with the typical kingside attack here with moves like h4, g4. The engine even likes the move knight takes f7, although that's not a move I would think of because it is seemingly trading off a good piece. But, well, that's a good defender as well. Anyway, the other thing I could play is bringing the knight forward, trying to get more pieces into the attack as well, or the typical bishop to h6 to trade off the dark squared bishop. There's lots of good ideas for me in this position, but the one thing I shouldn't do is the thing I did, which is, having played this tactic, I grabbed some material. I had chased his queen away, and I grab a pawn over here. So I'm now up a pawn, but this turns out to be a big mistake. I classified this as a strategic mistake rather than a tactical blunder, because the tactic to refute it is not immediate, but it's fairly straightforward. He takes the knight. I take back with the queen. He hits my bishop with bishop to e6. And when my queen retreats, I probably should go to this square, queen to b5, and just try and hold on. But already the chess engine likes black better than white. Until I played bishop takes a7, white had the advantage, and now black has the advantage. My pieces are just getting chased around here. For the cost of that one pawn, he's managed to activate all these pieces. And I compound the mistake by playing queen takes b7 here, and now I'm actually just completely lost. He comes out with queen a5, so he gets his queen back into the position that I had chased it away from a few moves earlier, and he has a raging attack, and I can't defend against all the threats, and I just go on to lose this game. So just a little bit of a what's the cause of this kind of error? I think this is maybe caused by overconfidence, that feeling that you know what's going on because you just played this tactic your opponent didn't see and forced him back, and now you're trying to reap the gains. But So you're so yeah, you're overestimating your own position and not playing the board or seeing it accurately. Okay, and let's take a look at the next one. This was played a little while later. I had the black pieces in this one, so let's turn it out around and let's go to this position. This is a perfectly normal position, and black is doing okay. It's probably about even. Nothing much going on here. Maybe slight edge to white, typical kind of opening advantage. And this looks like kind of a slow developing position. Maybe this was a closed Sicilian. And in this position, I played the move d5. And this is kind of not a typical move for me. I like to play pretty classically, and the classical virtue in chess is to develop your pieces before you open up the center. But already after d5, this is allowing him to exchange here and open up some lines, and white is just better developed and better prepared to take advantage of that opening. So d5 is a mistake. My opponent didn't take advantage of it. He played on. We got to another position a little while later. And I should mention, this is also a game where I was playing a lower rated player. So I think in this case, it's not that I'd found any great tactic and was overconfident because of that. I was just maybe overplaying my hand in general, pushing too hard and trying to win against the lower rated player, so being overly aggressive. And that theme continues with this next mistake. He let me get away with the pawn push. He kept things closed and didn't trade, so I was able to gain a little space here. And I do have still an okay position. In fact, maybe even black is slightly better. But I proceed to go downhill with my next move. What I should really do is just castle kingside. It's time to... My pieces are out, and it's time to castle. But I was thinking of... the attack and storming my opponent's king, and I castled to the queen side in this position. And this is once again a blunder. He doesn't, and once again, it's not. There's no immediate tactics here, but in the long run, my king is just really weak over here. He has these good pieces that are able to jump into the attack, and his setup over here is quite solid. It's difficult for me to break this down. I was thinking I might have some action on this light square diagonal, which he's opened up towards his king. But, it turns out not to be so easy to exploit because he's already got his bishop sitting there. So, in lots of lines, those bishops just get traded. And his pieces are well positioned around his king for defense. Whereas my king just turns out to be a little more open. It's quicker and easier for him to open up these lines against my queen and king over here and bring his rook into play. And he went on to win this in a nice game. So those are a couple examples of strategic errors that I made in this period. Let's see, I wanted to look at let's go back and close that one first. I wanted to look at a simple blunder, a little change of place, but always good to illustrate some blunders, give you guys some chances to guess the tactics. So I'm going to go to the position here. It's my turn to move, and I played the move queen to d7. I'm not sure what I was doing. I was just kind of maneuvering the queen, maybe defending this pawn. I guess that's what I was doing because his queen was attacking it. But this leaves me open to a tactic. And it's a simple one. So see if you can spot the tactic. Pause the video and look at it until you get the best move for white here. Okay, I'm going to give the answer away now. White has the simple move bishop to d4. This is a nasty skewer. The knight can't move because it'll leave the rook hanging in the corner, and I'll lose the exchange at least. And he can get more pieces onto this square than I can defenders. So, I can play bishop to d6, but he can attack it with the rook and cancel. He attacked with the other rook. And let's see, I can bring my queen over, but he can attack it with his queen. It's just not working out, and I end up losing a piece there. Okay, that was a simple one. Let's go take a look at another one. This one is also very simple. 6 right here. I had the white pieces this time, and in this position, I was maneuvering my rook, and I played rook to a3. I think I wanted to get my rook to the b file. That's probably what I was trying to do, and I can't go directly to the b file from that square. So anyway, I was just maneuvering with my rook and not paying attention to what my opponent's threats might be. So another fairly simple tactic. Why don't you pause the video, it's black to move, and see if you can spot the tactic that black has. Okay, I'm going to give the answer away now. It is queen to b7. He didn't play this, but queen to b7, let's erase this arrow, is just a simple fork. It's hitting this pawn and it's hitting this pawn. So both of those pawns are undefended. And if you look at the previous position, it is a classic example of weakness of the last move. This rook a3 left this my e pawn undefended, and my b pawn was undefended all along, and so this queen maneuver is possible, and there's no way to defend both those pawns. So a simple win of a pawn there. Okay, one more maybe not quite so simple tactic. These tactics are increasing in difficulty. That one was a little harder to find, I think, than the first one. The skewer, so we had a skewer, we had a fork, and this one, let's see, I have the black pieces here, and I played the move bishop to c6 here. And now it's white's turn to move, and white has a nice tactic in this position. Not a simple one like the earlier ones, but not too hard to see. So why don't you pause the video and stare at this one and see if you can figure it out. This just takes a couple steps. Okay, I'm going to give the answer away now. So, the first thing to look at is the exchange on c6. What happens after the exchange? And in fact, that's the beginning of the sequence. After he takes, and he has to take with the bishop because he needs the knight for the tactic. The question is, how can I take back? His knight is protecting that piece, so I can't take back with the queen. So I have to take back with the knight. And now the tactic is revealed. By keeping the knight here, he has a simple fork. So the knight is hitting the queen and the rook, and so that's the trick there. So it is a little bit harder to see because it's not an immediate fork. This square is protected at the moment, but you can get rid of one of the protectors by exchanging off that bishop, as long as you use this bishop to exchange with. You have to notice that the queen can't take back because it's still hit by the knight, and then when I take back, this square is open on d7, and it forks the queen and the rook. So nice little tactic there. Okay, and then one last example of an error from this period. This mistake is not a simple one, but I just wanted to show a nice example of a tactic, a more complex tactic. Let's see, I had the white pieces here. And so this is a kind of mistake I might make if we back up a little bit in a game, even if I'm in top shape. Just sometimes you get outcalculated. So I was in this position. My bishop is kind of under fire here from the knight and the rook, and so I'm in danger of losing a pawn. And so I wanted to try and find a better spot for that bishop. So I played bishop g5 first, kicking his queen around. And then now he's got a threat. I was hoping he'd move his queen away, but he didn't. He moved it to g6. So that's a little bit of hope just there. Keeping the pressure on my bishop, and now there's a threat to take the knight and win the bishop. So that would just be winning a piece there. So I moved the bishop to f4 here to get it away from the queen, so that's not threatened. But there is a nice tactic that black has in this position, and so this one is little more, even more complicated than the previous one. But if you want to treat this as a tactics puzzle, this is a good one to spend some time seeing if you can figure out what the best move for black is here and what the sequence is. Okay, I'm going to give the answer away now. I like this one a lot because there's a lot of things going on in this position, and not all of them are obvious, but there's this pin here indirectly on the queen, and there's this pin here indirectly on the g-pawn, and a series of careful exchanges can sort of unmask these pins and bring them to fruition, to really fully exploit the pin. And it starts off with a exchange sacrifice. He takes the bishop with the rook, and what this does is it pulls the queen away from the defense of the d-pawn, number one, and number two, it activates this pin, because without the bishop there, this pin is in effect on my queen. And now the follow-up, the second move in this sequence, is knight takes pawn. So he's got a pawn for the exchange, and he's hitting my queen, and he's hitting the knight. So, but I just have to move my queen somewhere where it defends the knight, isn't that correct? So I move the queen here. I went to cancel that. I went to e3. It doesn't matter where I would go to, I guess. I move the queen here, and then he just takes the knight. And now you see the other pin has been unmasked. I can't take back with the pawn, and it's protected by the knight, so I don't want to take back with the queen. So I've just lost a couple of pieces there for the rook. Let's see if we count the material here. He's got a rook and 3 pieces. Yeah, and I have 2 rooks and 1 piece. So he has 2 pieces for the rook, and he also won a pawn. So that's a winning advantage. You need a rook and a pawn or two to compensate for the 2 pieces, and he has the pawn, and he also has a great position. So he goes on to win this game. I played bishop g3 to block the pin, but he has time to in fact, he's got another threat in this position of knight to e2 check, so that the threats are not even over at this point. But this is enough at this point. If you saw ahead this far, you're already up material and winning. So that's the conclusion of this episode. Stay tuned. I'll be back with episode 10. Take another look at another set of games and see if these unfortunate patterns are continuing in those games as well. See you then. Bye.